My name is Aitan. I use they and their pronouns. I'm a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, the New York City chapter. And we are a group of Jews and allies who come together out of our belief and conviction that Palestinians, like all people, deserve dignity and justice and freedom. And we are committed to solidarity with all oppressed people against white supremacy and patriarchy and fascism. Just before we get started with our conversation, I wanted to start by mentioning Ahmed Erekat, who is the cousin of the human rights activist, the Palestinian American human rights activist Noura Erekat. Ahmed was recently murdered by Israeli soldiers this week on his way to his sister's wedding, and we just want to take a moment to honor his life, and in his memory, we commit to dismantling all forms of white supremacy and state violence, policing, imprisonment, from here to Palestine and around the world. So this Newfound Elder series that we're doing today, we've been doing for a couple months since the beginning of the pandemic, and it came about because none of the work that we're doing now started yesterday, and we recognize that there's so much wisdom in our movement, so many people who have been working and organizing for decades, and in this Movement Elder series, we want to uplift their voices and to get inspired to continue these struggles in the context of their legacies and their work. Today, we are so lucky to be joined by Ceyenne Doroshow. Ceyenne is a performer, an activist, organizer, and a public figure in the trans and sex worker rights movement. She is extremely popular right now and always. Ceyenne is the founder and executive director of GLITS, that's Gays and Lesbians Living in a Transgender Society, which I adore that name. And she recently raised over $1.25 million to buy 2 buildings in New York City to provide housing and support to Black trans people in New York City so that they can thrive and not just survive. Ceyenne recently spoke at the Brooklyn Rally and March for Black Trans Lives to a crowd of about 15,000 people. And I think we're about to play a video of their speech. Is it ready now? And hopefully we can play this video that will just so that everyone who wasn't there last week Sunday or the week before can get a little sense of the power of Ceyenne's voice and really what Black trans power looks like.
Oh boy.
Black trans lives matter. If you don't know I gave it today, you will never fucking know. We are disposable with gospel. And you need to take it, and you need to process it, and you need to keep carrying forward with it every single day of your life. Because we don't get to determine invisible actions we're trans. Your fight is every day with us. We need to keep making some more continuity. Ceyenne Doroshow.
So I think we're gonna work on the technical aspects of trying to get the full video to play. I really hope that we're able to make that work, and we'll come back to that later on in the conversation. So I guess to start, Ceyenne, I hope you could start by telling us, how did you become involved in the trans rights movement and the sex workers movement?
I was born. If that was the question, how did I become involved? I was born. I was feeling very different and special, and found out years later when people gave us the term transgender, because we were many other things before that. I always had that transgender gene in my bones, I guess. But how this work started, it started from other people guiding me. It started from mentors and moms and my own life experiences, and just not wanting to see other people go through what I went through, which was hard. It was taxing. It was everything. I was right up to the edge of death many times in life. And I could imagine a lot of our community members suffer with the same problems. Sustainability, employment, definitely housing, addiction of many sorts. I went through it all: arrest, sex work. And not all trans people go through this, but these were the things I went through. So clearly doing this work was about me, myself, but also not wanting community to experience what I had experienced. And, you know, Flawless Sabrina has said to me, who was one of my mentors and mom, you know, use your pain to change the world. And I think I used my pain to change the world. I always heard that I would get in trouble for helping people. As a child, I just wanted to help someone else like me. And usually that would lead to getting in trouble. But here we are, fast forward 40 years later, I am still doing the same thing, helping people, not getting in trouble, not all the time. This mouth can get you in a lot of trouble. But, you know, the work is about sustainability, about growing, about loving each other, about having allies and interacting in a world for improvement. That's how this work began. How this COVID work began was just to call people out of trouble. That's how it happened. Can one of y'all take my phone to Shimon? I'm sorry, y'all, the phone was ringing. But this COVID work was an act of desperation. It was a call to me and my program director that said, you know, we have to do something now. We had to respond. We didn't have time to wait. Like, the more we wait, the more people were going to suffer. So this was a direct reaction, a lot of organizing, a lot of community support, seeing a vision and actually helped and pitched in and still are pitching in. This is the most amazing thing with all the organizations connected to LGBTQIA and the rest of it. Never in New York has any of these agencies created sustainability that looks like the work we're doing. And that's because I've been involved with a lot of these agencies and seen flaws in many pockets in agency. Glitz is its own agency. Glitz is not about just being trans or just being gay or just being lesbian or just being them or they or us. It's about the whole umbrella. I don't have the hangups about colors. Never will I have those hangups. My favorite uncle was Irish, and I loved him dearly. My great-great-grandfather's Japanese. My grandfather's Trinidadian. I am a mixture of a lot of shit. I'm a clusterfuck of some people. But I'm trans and I'm Black and I have a voice and I need to use that voice. And that's what Glitz is about. We're actually jumping into care, direct care, and creating housing that looks like none other. Housing owned by a Black trans organization. It's easy.
I wanna get to there, because I mean, of course, everything that you're saying is so amazing, but I want to start with getting to know more about you and how you got involved in this work. And so I guess to go back to like an earlier point in your life before the founding of Glitz, can you tell us about some of the first times in your life where you started to see yourself as an activist or someone who had responsibilities to care for other people in these movements?
That's my first connection to this work. I was in a shelter. I was in a shelter as a consumer. I was a client in a shelter. And for a couple of months, the staff thought I was actually staff in the shelter. Somebody's seen that. Somebody seen it, and they heard it, and they seen me, and they gave me a really strict conversation. They sat me down and said, this is the type of work you need to be doing. How far did you go in school? And I told them school wasn't the issue. The issue was homelessness and employment. They sent me to HR, and I immediately got a job as an institutional aide in what was the first drop-in center in Grand Central Station. And because I was trans, I had to do a lot to get this position. It was the first drop-in center, period. I lied about my I lied about my age. I lied about my name, and I got the job. I also did not disclose I was trans. I made my 6 months. I got my 6-month evaluation, and that was the day that I was born. Fully proud, fully ready, fully ignited. Like, literally, I went to work that first day and planned it very well. It was orchestrated that I showed up to work in my skin, very happy, very content. I'm choking just a little.
Yeah, take your time.
I went to work, got there. My clients didn't know who I was. My bosses, security, you would drop-in centers, hundreds of people. I went to my station. They called the boss. They thought I was just some rude person that walked up in this building. My boss came downstairs. He took one look and went, I knew it. And he called me up to his desk. He was very nice. He said, I guess Edward is not your name. I said, no. I told him my real name. He said, well, I'm not disappointed, nor am I surprised. I kind of felt that you were uncomfortable in your presentation. Are you going to be okay with still doing this job? And are you going to be okay with the clients? And I said, if my clients loved me before this transition, they're going to love me regardless. And it was a little rough in the beginning. So I got to tell you, my first job in the drop-in center was security for the bathrooms. You could imagine all these guys that had knew me at Edward now had to interact with me as Ceyenne. It was rather spicy, but also the respect I had for the consumers, the homeless people, was a respect that warranted love and a presence of being held. And it literally changed my life. What I learned from a lot of those people was, and what I taught those people was, I was one of those people. We're all not far from being there homeless. And that I loved and respected all of them. I respected the guys enough never to look down at their privates, even though my job was to walk through the bathroom. It was my humanity that kept me from looking down. It was the type of caseworker I wanted to be with my clients that showed them I cared enough not to disrespect them. And you know, from that work, I never thought about working for an LGBTQIA community, but I had been to many organizations where a trans woman's presence was not really wanted. Our voices were really not heard. Still today, you still find that in all these organizations, is that they'll use a trans woman's face, but not pay her appropriately. A lot of the girls working for these organizations can't afford to pay rent, pay for Metro cards and food, but they're working for an organization. So where's the help? It's just to have one of our brown bodies in these places to say they fit that demographic. So this work was created for me in the way where I never wanted to be one of those people. I never wanted to work for an organization that wouldn't hold me. And a lot of organizations wouldn't hold me. I'm a big bitch to hold. But also, I wanted people to have respect. I wanted my people to have respect. And people get it very screwed up because they think, you know, my fight is only about Black trans women. It's definitely starting with Black trans women, but it's about the whole umbrella, because if we're going to protect one, we have to protect us all in this umbrella. And that's what my work is about. It's about making sure we can see the beginning and an end somewhere. To me, the end is building, not only building in equity, but building in spirit inside. When you can feed somebody and hold them and touch them, then you're making changes in other people's lives.
Thank you for saying that. It's so moving. The next question that I wanted to ask you was, you already mentioned Flawless Sabrina, and I've heard in other times you talk about your mentors, Miss Major and Flawless Sabrina, and both of them were just such incredible legends in our community. And I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about those relationships. How did you meet each of them, and how did they come to be such important mentors to you?
Flawless Sabrina seen something in me I didn't see in myself. And she got me out of the park, because I was living in Central Park. It was literally my first night. I was getting ready to set up my camp. You know, I was gonna be okay in the bushes. And she was walking her mom's dog. She seen me. She said, "You're way too young for this." Took me to her home. I told her my story. If you've ever been to her house or had ever been to her house, her refrigerator is limited, but it has vodka in the freezer. She embraced me. She took me to the restaurant on the corner of Lexington, and we had hamburgers, and then I went back to her house and kind of nodded out until the next morning. The next morning, she got me up, told me to take a shower, get dressed, and asked for my mom's address, and took me to Bushwick to my mother's house to explain gender identity. That's somebody I want to always have me and hold me. And she did up until the day she died. She was that mentor, that icon, that beautiful person who I could call, who I could expect would reprimand me if I needed it, who would demand that I have respect for myself and present myself in ways that would make her proud. And who knew? She was guiding me in the right light. And I met Miss Major in sort of a magical kind of way. I was in Las Vegas at the sex worker conference, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and they asked me, can you MC a panel, and we want you to introduce Miss Major. And of course I knew who Miss Major was, but there were so many missing pieces in this. I'm introducing Miss Major at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm in Las Vegas, I'm hungover, and I need to be dressed and ready by 7:30 the latest, to be in that main hall. And I did it. No pressure, I did it. And the film starts, and it's going into Miss Major's life. I introduce her, we're talking, people are doing Q&As, and my mom's ex-boyfriend's picture pops up on the screen. I didn't react right away in front of everybody, but I was stunned. And as legend may have it, Frank B.B. Smith, who was my mom's ex-boyfriend, politicized Miss Major in jail. Frank was one of the people, when I was running away, who, I don't know how, found me. All I had was a beeper, but he found me living with some Jamaican man. He came and got me, took me back home. So there were many cycles of this going out, leaving. But I never knew that Frank had this whole famous jail history. That changed the world, it changed the prison system, and that he was the person that politicized Miss Major. Now, me and Major got to talk. I asked if I could speak to her the next day. She summoned me, literally, and I went to her room, and she had remembered Frank having a conversation about me when I was young, when I was a baby trans girl. And it just brought everything full circle to have that love and presence in my life recircle. Miss Major was the one that told Frank how to deal with me and how to find me. To have that recircle in my adult life, that was magic. To actually leave New York and go all the way to Vegas and meet what would become my next mom. And you can never have enough. You can never have enough as a child. You can never have enough support. So having two moms that were iconic and are iconic, because Major's still a living legend. She's still a salty old bitch, but I love her. And she speaks the truth. And she showed me a lot about self-worth and what I could do. And she said, you know, you can't leave anybody behind. I don't give a damn what they are. You can't leave anybody behind. And she is so fucking here. She is. She's an amazing, amazing testament to what real chutzpah is. This old lady is just like Flawless. Both of them. I got iconic, like I'm getting goose pimples. I have iconic moms. And my biological mom, who has now, some of this has shifted into my biological mom now being in the place that I held Major and Flawless in. So this has all become quite amazing and beautiful.
That is so amazing and beautiful. And it really just does sound like, you know, magic has happened to you, around you, your whole life. And we also had the honor of having Miss Major join us a couple of weeks ago, and it was just such a beautiful experience being in her presence and being in your presence now, and like feeling all of this community come together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Where I want to go from here is to the early years of founding GLITS. What was happening in your life when you started to found GLITS, and tell us about the early work that you've done before now.
I being tortured. I was being tortured by agency. I had worked for an organization that I thought was good, Red Umbrella. It turned out to be absolutely horrible. I was robbed by the directors, so was other people of color, other trans women, and let down. I built my pride on working for taking care of girls or trying to support them in some kind of way, and to have a white woman literally tear my heart apart. And that would be the co-author of my book. There was a lot of shady stuff that happened, and I, suffered behind it. That didn't make me give up. What that made me do was fight to have my own. And then I wouldn't have to be governed. I wouldn't have to have anybody take away what is my equity, which is my work and my self-worth. And I felt abandoned by the whole process. I also felt abandoned by community. And it took me like 2 years to get up and do something about this. And one night I got a phone call from Uganda from a young woman named Aaliyah who said, "Mom, help, help." The girl had never met me. And it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. The connection was waffly, so the call kept going in and out. I could hear the panic in her voice. A couple of days later, she called back, a more reasonable time, but this time she was running for her life, and I could hear all of it. I could hear the people chasing her. This was horrible. She finally made it into the woods where she could hide. The next phone call I got from her, she was at a refugee camp. And I could take a deep breath then because I thought she would be safe. But she wasn't safe in that refugee camp. And she winded up running from Uganda to Kenya to the next refugee camp where she was raped by a countless amount of men. I immediately did what I could to get her out of Africa. I'm supposed to. When you hear this stuff and you hear somebody say they're gonna kill me, you're supposed to respond. I did everything under the sun. And, with the help of a woman named PJ Starr, I was able to document this. But it was official. She was coming to the US and I was going to be there in that airport. And I cried getting to the airport. I cried in the airport. I was a shitty mess when she got off that plane. And it was something out of a movie to see this girl and to hold her. And there was nothing like that. And I felt like that moment, I had accomplished everything in the world because I had saved this little girl's life. The next phone call I got was from a friend of hers in Uganda so to explain a little bit about her case, the first Aaliyah, her picture was put in the Red Pepper newspaper in Africa, along with 49 other delegates and queer community to be killed. The paper said, "Extinguish these lives, it's okay. They're an abomination." And she was the one trans girl on that list. So it was my job to get her. And she sent me a little clip so I could see that sort of hit list. The next girl I got, her name was Leah, and she was friends of Aaliyah. Now this young woman was smart. She actually made it out of Africa with a phone, a burner phone, a phone that she and people are just tools. So I can tell you, she showed me what was in the phone. I seen the videos, I seen the pictures, I seen so many African trans women being killed and murdered and beaten and flogged And like the images will be burnt into my head forever. And this young woman told me before she let me see them, we had to do a lot to get that phone to work here. And it was townspeople and it was everybody. And I realized once again, I did God's work. I got this child out of Africa. So now I got two. And I continued this cycle until that orange person got in office and put the beat down on getting people over here. Because I would still be Harriet Tubman. I would still be doing it. I will underground motherfuckers that need to get here for safety. That's not because I'm some big fanatic. That's because I want to save a life. All lives are precious. Black trans lives, that's special, especially. As this became a pattern, I started to get phone calls from immigration and letters telling me I was starting to get high, or they were starting to look at me a little. And I realized that maybe I have something here. Maybe helping people at this level is what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe saving a life is the work. You could go to all these agencies and get a Metro card and a meal and case management, but where are you actually going to get housing that's sustainable and somebody to tell you to take your ass to school? Let's start there. If you want housing, school is the answer. How many people are going to do that and give them a chance to do that? All these agencies, this is how you get agency, education. You build education and you build resource, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. You take away education and all of that, and we have more oppressed people. I'm always going to be oppressed because I'm helping people at a level where it's fucking with me, and a lot of people, because you can't stop caring. You can't stop wanting your people to do better and be better. And the best way to do that is create sustainability that looks like a plan, not an exit out, not big funding to do nothing, where you're paying your staff and your consumers are suffering. They're dead broke and living in projects and in subsidized housing that does not sustain our lives in areas where we should not be living because everything around us is harm. When we really need harm reduction, we're already a broken community because of society. This is what this work is about. It's clearing and making paths and bridges for people to go over.
Thank you for sharing that, and that's profound to know that you started with that work internationally and like making these international connections. Right. Can you, we mentioned at the beginning of this call that in the past few weeks, you have raised over $1.25 million for Black trans people in New York City for housing and resources long-term, especially for people who are released from Rikers. And can you tell us about that work and about that project and what are you doing and why is it so important?
Well, the work started because of the emergency relief fund that were bailing people out of jail and still are till today. Bailing people out of jail, and there needed to be a plan in place. This was a collective of Free Them All for Public Health, the ERF, my agency, and BYP. But my agency started what looks like reentry work. As soon as COVID hit, we knew people needed to get out of jail. We knew that this was something that needed to happen, and it needed to happen now. We also knew housing was a big issue. People being able to go home to their families during a pandemic was not going to happen. And in some cases, some families told the lawyers, yes. We winded up losing those people because the reality was their family was not going to let them stay there. But if you had a child in jail and you knew you could get them out, you would say yes too. And so we needed to act. We needed to act quickly. We rented Airbnbs. We filled them. We have everything from Care Act from people providing care to holistic people, food resources. We have created sustainability for them for a year now. One of the Airbnbs, the rent is paid for a year, so they won't have to move. So they can go for programming and to getting to services and to write resumes and to apply for colleges. That's sustainability. That's how you do this work. It's not about talking about it, it's about actually doing the damn thing, making sure people can do the things they need to sustain. My coordinator jumped into play with volunteers, and the volunteers are everything. You can't do anything by yourself. All these people came together to create not only fundraising, but also to create sustainability within this project. And that's everything from getting people as soon as they get out, having a volunteer outside their jail to take them from there to 2 weeks isolation. We let them isolate for 2 weeks, and then we move them into the Airbnb. And it gives us a little time to figure out, you know, what we have to do, what they have to do. This is not about us doing it for you. It's about you doing it for yourself, but us guiding you into self-care, guiding you into sustainability, guiding you into education and housing. All of this needs to be in a plan when you're talking about re-entry, so they don't go back, because we don't want them to go back. That's the idea of this. When you see how many people have died in jail, or when we really know the numbers of how many community members died in jail when COVID is over, we don't know. We don't know. We have no clue. Nobody's talking about that. Why? Because they're in jail. So, you know, it's tough work. It's not easy work. It's broken people being put back together by what we hope to be a plan that can look like others, like a model other cities can actually use, because this is how you take care of community. Like I said, I prioritize Black trans women, but I prioritize community, period. I don't have all the hangups all these people in this world have. I am a people person, and that's my shit.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And it is just, it's so fucked up and it's so devastating, and the work is so, so important. I think right now we have, the video is ready. So if our tech can help us, we're gonna watch, this is the video of Ceyenne speaking at the march and rally for Black trans lives at the Brooklyn Museum to 15,000 people.
I love you. I love each and every one of my trans family members. I love all of you. I want you to live. I want you to breathe and sustain. I want you to stand tall and proud and Black and live. There's so many of our brown faces. There's a sea of motherfucking trans people. I love you. I am the founder of GLITS Inc. That's gays and lesbians living in a transgender society.
messy.
I think that was just the first part of the video, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to play the rest of it, but I'm glad that everyone got
get the idea.
A little bit of a taste of how powerful that moment was and how powerful your voice is, and just hearing you speak so deeply from a place of love, and to emphasize, you know, the power of love in our politics and in our movements. A lesson that I learned when I was a young child as a young religious Jew from the Torah, and a lesson that I've continued to learn and relearn over the course of my life is from movement leaders, is that this kind of learning that we're doing here today is so important, but that learning is also not enough. Learning is not enough, and if it's not directly connected to action. And so one of the ways that we've been making this Movement Elders series also about action is by moving resources and moving money. And Ceyenne has already spoken about how important this work is, about centering Black trans people in this work. The Combahee River Collective said, when Black women are free, we will all be free. And I think it's true now. When Black trans women are free, we will all be free. And we are so lucky to have her here with us today to remember the importance of this work. So someone is about to post a link to GLITS fundraiser in the chat. And we're gonna take a few minutes to please post how much you will be able to donate, to give to GLITS, so that we can all see that we are donating together, we are giving together right now. And we'll just take a few minutes to post in the chat, and then to go to her website and to make those donations, to make those happen.
Oh my God. Oh. Oh, fucking. There goes my makeup on Wednesday.
We love you so much, and we're so grateful to you for being here.
I think what gets me is that I've been doing this work for so long. And when I lost Flawless, I took a major hit. That my heart. And that was my people person. I didn't need nobody else. Then I met Major, and I had equally that support, but in community, it was rough. It was rough just trying to be a team player. What I found in owning my own agency was I didn't have to play by anybody's rules. I could help people without having to be bothered with any of these agencies or making them have to go through hoops and stunts. It's not about that. It's about helping somebody that needs help, period. Not them having to be HIV or having to be this or having to be that, but helping them, because all people need fucking help. Especially Black trans women. They need to know that they can go to school and be supported. Black trans men need to know that they can transition and be supported. All trans people need help, need sustainability, need to know that tomorrow is a thing. It can happen, and that dreams can come true. But you got to do some work. You got to do some work. There has to be a part that makes you want to do it, because we can't make you do it. Now, y'all gonna stop making me cry because you're fucking up my makeup.
So the next thing that, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and that it just all is evidence of how important this work is, and we want to be supporting it and making sure that it happens, and you're doing that right now. The next question that I wanted to ask you is about this right now, this crazy political revolutionary moment that we're all living in, especially for all of us here who are in New York City, but also obviously all around the country, all around the world. Revolution is happening. And I mean, one of the things that is really incredible about right now is that we are all thinking and dreaming so big about what kind of a world we want to live in. And I mean, something that inspires me about this project and about the work that you're doing is that you're not waiting for the government to take action. You're not waiting, you are going out there directly and creating housing and creating community and resources for trans people and doing it directly from the people. So I guess my question for you is, when you are dreaming really big about how the world could be, what is the world that you want for Black trans people and for all of us? How would the world be different?
We would have places. Sustainability would look like us owning our own, not being a part of a system that is further screwing us over, but having equity throughout New York City, in the Hamptons, in Fire Island, places where they normally don't let girls like me sustain. Good neighborhoods, property in Park Slope, property on the island, property in Staten, and property all over. Equity is how we can sustain. And definitely education. We need scholarships. I need to be able to tell these babies, to go back to school, get your GED, get your diploma, and then let me get you into college. Because if we can create sustainability through education and follow them through, don't let them fall. When they're failing, get them a tutor. That's how you change a life. And also tell them when they fail, we can do this again. We can do this again. That is how you really help somebody through. I never had that. In all this shit I got, I never had somebody to hold my hand other than Flawless Sabrina and Major tell me that it was okay for me to be me, but also okay for me to take my ass to school and get what I needed. And that was all the support I needed, was to have that grounding. So I want our community to be locked into sustainability. When I'm done looking at this, I'm looking at a 12-family unit now for a community. We're looking at sustainable. I want to go past that. I'm going to look for another building after that. I want to continue until we have built resources that hold our community tight. And if that means I have to build something that looks like a scholarship fund so babies can go to school and come on out on the other end as doctors. One of the people that have always stood by me since I got my shit together and I got out of jail is my lawyer, Melissa Bruto, who is a riot. Never ever showed me another side, never showed me that she was better than me, always kept me right by her as a sister. So that's sustainability when you have a friendship, which I started out as a client and we are sisters now. There's nothing on the face of this earth. I want my community to have allies like this. I want my community to be able to have a sister that doesn't have to necessarily be Black or Hispanic or Irish or Russian. Just have a sister. I want my community to have that. We need to become better at being who we are. So somebody else can accept us the way we are. I want this for all of us. I want to be able to teach us how to de-escalate, because we need it. We need it. Too many of these kids don't know how to shut their fucking mouths. We need to teach that lesson. We need to teach the lesson of maybe if you just be quiet when that crowd of boys around, they won't attack you. Not that they have a right to, but you have the right to walk away if it's going to sustain your life. These are lessons we need to teach. Instead of just saying, oh, that poor baby, I don't know why that happened to her. Let's help prevent this. I want all of that for my community. And the way to make sure this stuff doesn't happen to me, because I have an opinion like everybody else, they're all assholes. But to me, if you put somebody in a good neighborhood where they can thrive, you can see your work. You can see what you invested in. And that's what I want for my community. I don't want people living in a neighborhood where they have to run, going to the grocery store to fucking laundry. I want to live in a neighborhood where people don't give a damn about who I am, or what I do. That's what I want for my community.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, so much of what you've spoken about, the power and importance of mentorship, of sustainability, of thriving, and the work that you're doing with GLITS, all of this, like for me as a trans person, makes me feel so much safer and so much more excited to live in a city that has you doing this work. I wanted to say from the chat, someone tallied up, we raised $1,600 for GLITS today.
That was a couple. Oh my God.
I mean, that's a great thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
In a minute, we are going to turn to questions from the audience. And so if you have a question, just write it in the chat box and we'll collect those. Yeah, we can take a section to just keep learning from Cayenne's wisdom. I guess while we're waiting, I had one question that I meant to ask earlier, which is about, I mean, I've been doing this work in New York City for such a long time. And right now, during coronavirus, I've heard so many people making the comparison between, you know, the radical organizing that is happening right now to the organizing that was happening in the 80s and 90s in response to HIV/AIDS. And I was wondering if you could speak to that, to some of the similarities and how is right now different.
Wow, the similarities are very different. In the AIDS epidemic, the experience of a Black trans person, the experience of a Black person with AIDS was drastically different from the experience of, say, a white person. And the care, the level of care, the organizing, all of it, often left people of color out of it. We were the people that they tried out AZT on. There are so many people that use AIDS as a tool to not only raise funds, but misuse this community. And then you got Big Pharma who put these drugs out that killed people, that literally took out thousands of us because they were not for us. And you fast forward to what looked like a movement. Yeah, there was a lot of ACT UP stuff, and they had the mothers and the grandmothers, and they had all of that. But where were the links missing in people of color, in the minority, in the marginalized? These were the areas where the effect. If you had money, you had sustainability. If you didn't, you had horrible health care. I remember a couple of my friends not even being fed. Their food would literally was left outside their doors. I had to go in and not only curse out the hospital, but buy them food because I wouldn't let them, I didn't trust them either going to take their food and heat it up and bring it back. So I just went and ordered food and fed people. And then there was a part that I seen that was so disgusting, is that how my friends were dealt with when they died. The fact that we didn't have equity to bury a lot of people. A lot of people went straight from the morgue to Potter's Field. In COVID, what we've seen in COVID is unprecedented. The amount of people that died, the amount of people that I know personally that died, almost gave me a nervous breakdown. The amount of calls I had to make to my family mortician to help me make sure a community member got their just reward, their eternal rest, their peace. I had to do that. It was an act of kindness, but it was an act that broke my heart. But knowing that I was doing it, knowing that I did it, knowing that I could make that call, that made me feel better. But watching my people who don't know how to isolate, that had no place to isolate, die day after day after day. Sometimes 3, 4, 5 people a day I witnessed. I didn't witness that in the HIV era. I witnessed this in COVID, and it rocked me to the core. It fucked with my head. I'm terrified of this thing. I think we still need to be careful. I think where they were able to get a cure or leading to medicines that help AIDS, COVID, we're not looking at that, and we may not be looking like, if they don't have a cure for AIDS, are we really gonna have a cure for a damn cold, a virus that's taking out the fucking nation? Or the cure for cancer, or the cure for leukemia? So think about this. When we say things are changed or it's different from AIDS and it's different, no, it's all the same. If they ain't cure that shit, how are they curing this?
Yeah, that's really profound. The first question we have from the chat is about self-care. They said, Ceyenne, you give so much love and care to others. How do you care? What do you do for self-care and for self-sustenance?
That's a mean-spirited question. I know I need to do something. I know I need to, I need to go away. I know I'm gonna burn myself out. I can handle a lot, by the way, folks. But I've been moving at a very fast pace. Some days until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how. I haven't figured out self-care. I did try to reach out yesterday. My director wants me to go to therapy. My lawyer wants me to go to therapy. I agree with them. There are some things I need to talk about, and my own fears about becoming an elder in this work. And, you know, I gotta be prepared. And I need to slow down, but how do you slow down when people are broken? How do you take your time? I know I need to. I find when I do go on vacation and I do go to Berlin or Germany or France, I'm working there. I'm literally working there. I go there and I meet a Black trans girl and I'm working already. And there's no way to stop the work. Yes, I agree. I need self-care. Okay, I said it.
Yes, we want you to have that. We want you to have self-care, and we want you to have, you know, the care, community care as well. The care, we want to have other people caring for you as well. And I think the person who asked that, they they added on, how can we support you? They said, do you need tutors or cooking or foot massages?
Oh, I love that. Oh, that just broke my heart. All the above.
So we should get you guys connected so that we can make all that.
That would be beautiful. Tell them I said, oh my God, Irene, thank you.
Let's see, what other questions do we have? They said, what does effective allyship look like to you?
It looks like us. It looks like us. Effective is starting the conversation and doing something with it. Effective allyship is fundraising. It is tutors. It is scholarships. It's creating these things. If I say it, I need help obtaining it. And it's having these things. What if I could have a fundraiser that could raise like $2 million for scholarships? You know how many fucking kids I could get into school? I'd be ready to die then. It's just the joy you want. My niece is sitting in the other room, and she just graduated from UCLA, and she's a Black trans young woman, and now she's going for her PhD. I can't tell you how this is what I want. This is what I want to see more of. My daughter just got an internship at one of the most toxic places in the world, the UN, and she is a Caribbean trans woman of experience. But she's in college. She got all A's. Her GPA is off the roof. That's what I want. If we can create more of this, I'm moist for the rest of my life. I won't need an orgasm. I need for us to be able to sustain in every way.
Amazing, amazing, so beautiful.
Thank you.
The next question we have from the chat, they said, I'm so appreciating everything that you're sharing with us, especially your stories. The painful, the beautiful, all of it. I'm curious, what has this period of uprising felt like to you? Are there any moments from the past few weeks that you'd like to share? Like, what did it feel like? What did the 15,000 person demonstration in Brooklyn feel like for you?
It broke my heart. I stayed in a corner by myself with just my small little entourage because I didn't want to see what I thought was just 300 to maybe 200-300 people. And when I started to hear the crowd roars, it broke my heart. They finally, a councilwoman said, you have to see this. What's her name? Elisa Crespo said I had to see this, and we went together, and it brought me to tears. Literally, it brought me to tears. And then I waited until they called me. But a lot of things people don't know. So when I got there, I sat off in a corner, and somebody had got me a chair. My daughter, my sister Rio, got me a chair. I sat off in a corner downstairs. I was content with just sitting in a corner. And when all the aides that were helping, these young people organized in huge ways. They walked me up a staircase with all these people in white, like security guiding me up this staircase. And I felt warm, and I felt held, and I felt love. And then it came time for me to speak. And I was crying before I even spoke. A lot of people don't know that I was a shitty mess. But the emotion was overwhelming, and it just was up in my chest. It was like heartburn. Like I just wanted to cough it out, and I had no way to get it out. And then it came time for me to speak. I don't write speeches. That's not something I do well, because I'm always going to gear off topic. And that's just me. If you're going to speak of change, it has to be organic, and that's my process. If I'm going to deliver a message of care and love and humanity, that's what I wanted to do that day, because I seen support on every level. It was the most peaceful, wonderful rally I've been to, and I've been to many in my lifetime. That one by far, excellent. I got, my cup was full. I don't know, a lot of people know me, but a lot of people think they know me. I don't walk. That's not something I cotton to. And I walked that whole entire march. And when I needed to change my very beautiful stilettos, they stopped that march until I could get my flip-flops. That's elder care. That's rewarding. But walking down the stairs and seeing all the people, and I remember my nephew, Jai Love, came and ran up and said, "Auntie, I got you," and held me by my waist through that crowd. Those are moments I will never forget. Seeing all the new and old generations of queerness, of transness, of trans men, trans women, trans babies, all of it lets me know that we are now organizers in ways where we're going to take this world by storm, because this world has fucked us over for way too long. If we can stand up together as allies, having an ally has nothing to do with color. It has to do with the work, the inside, the person. That's an ally to me. Somebody that cares enough to care about what I care about. My motto on my website says, inspire yourself to inspire others. I want everybody to do that. Every fucking day you wake up out of bed, that's your charge. That's what Ceyenne wants you to do. What kind of tutoring? Oh, baby, we got some kids now. You need to call me on that one. Tutoring, all tutoring. This is my life's work. And that march took me right there to say some stuff that needed to be heard. It just needed to be heard. And I needed to say it.
And we needed to, I mean, I needed to hear it. And, you know, it was just like you said. I mean, I cried when I heard you speak, and I've cried every time I've watched that video. And I
cried. I cried.
Make sure everyone who hasn't gotten a chance to see that video, watch the full video. It's on the GLITS Inc. Instagram page. And yeah, I mean, I can't believe that you didn't write your speech, but it's also just, it's your sincerity and your authenticity is so, it rings out so clearly. We have one more question from the chat. They said, your vision of a safe neighborhood is really inspiring and so important. What does a whole world built on love and safety look and feel and sound like to you?
Sounds like Tangerine 45 is not in office. It sounds like a world that's going to change. It sounds like us being in positions that we should have always having, giving us a chance to go to school, to become doctors and lawyers and judges and councilmen and city councilmen and Senate leaders. These are the things we need to inspire tomorrow. That's what it looks like to me.
Okay, I think we'll see if there are other, if anyone has last questions that are going to come up in the chat. Before we do our final questions, I wanted to highlight a little bit of the other work that Jewish Voice for Peace is doing and stuff that's happening right now. I'm not sure if people know that people in Lower Manhattan have occupied City Hall, and they are camping out there. They are committed. They are staying there for a while. I think until, if anyone knows better in the chat, you can write it there, but to make sure that, to demand accountability, to demand that we defund the police. And I think the goal that they're calling for still is for $1 billion to be cut from the NYPD. And we know that that is not enough. We need way more than $1 billion. We need it to be, we need it to be completely defunded and abolished, but this $1 billion goal is a good first, it's a first step. And if you follow the Instagram account that someone will post for Vocal New York or for Occupy City Hall, you can find out different ways to support them. They need bodies, they need people to show up and join in to hold it down on the ground. And they also need all different types of resources, and you can, they're posting about what things they need and how you can support them on that Instagram page. The next thing is that this movement series, it happens every week, and every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. I think it's the same Zoom link. Someone will put in a link to sign up to get reminders in the chat. And next week we're hearing from Dr. Rabab Al-Hadi, who is a Palestinian professor and academic and attorney, I think. Someone please post more information about Dr. Rabab in the chat. But it will be really, really profound, and we're excited for that. And every Thursday, tomorrow at noon, every Thursday at 12 o'clock noon, we do phone banking and political organizing. We meet together as a chapter, JVP, to call for the police to be defunded. We call for everyone to be released from cages. There should be no people in New York City or New York State who are kept in cages, especially during the coronavirus. Putting people in prison or detention can be a death sentence. And so join us on our phone banks every week on Thursday at noon. And I'm sure you can see all of those resources are there in the chat. Do we have any other questions? Or Cayenne, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
I just appreciate all of you. I appreciate my brother and sister, Morgan Una, who is very happy to accept this invitation. I love them both. And I love everybody. I'm glad I did this. This was rewarding.
Okay, I think I lost the audio for a second, but thank you so much. This was such an amazing experience for me, and so amazing to hear all of your incredible stories and the work that you're doing. It is such a gift and such a special moment to have you here with us. And I hope you'll continue to see yourself as part of our community. And we are all just fully committed to love and solidarity together with you. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you next week. We'll see you on the streets. I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Aitan.
Yes, and make sure that you donate what you pledged. The link is there in the chat as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.